Hey YouTube. Okay, so today I'm going to do a movie review like I mentioned I was going to do. I did go see the movie and I want to tell you about it. Um, it's called Blink Twice and it is the directorial debut of Zoe Kravitz. And it is classified as a thriller and rated R. And I agree that it should be rated R. And as far as it being a thriller, yeah, I could see why they classify it that way. But um, it was, as far as like thriller type of suspense, I don't think it was in the league of like Hitchcock thrillers, but it was good. I'm going to say right from the beginning of this review that I give it 4 stars out of 5. Um, and it, even though I'm still questioning whether I would classify it as a thriller, um, I'm not sure about that, and I'll tell you that. What I'll tell you about that later. But I don't even know what I would classify it as. It's just that I'm used to thrillers like Hitchcock stuff, so it's different. But there's a lot of positive things I want to say about this film, and giving it 4 stars out of 5 means that I do recommend it. Um, and now I'll talk more about all the good stuff and mention a few things that I didn't like about it, but mostly I liked it. Okay, so this movie, I'm going to just tell you the plot story first and mention the characters. This movie is basically about Frida and her friend Jess. At the beginning, it's about Frida and Jess, but mostly it's about Frida. Frida is a young black woman, and her best friend is Jess, a white woman, a young white woman. And they're just your typical young women who have their insecurities and are just trying to get through life. And Frida is played by Naomi Aki. Jess is played by Aaliyah Shawkat. New actresses I've never heard of, but I do want to say that in performance wise, they were both perfect. Naomi Aki is very, very impressive, actually, for being in a thriller. Her acting was really, really believable. Very good. Um, anyway, so back to the characters, Frida and Jess. They're these young women, and they're at this party or something, somewhere where there's, I guess, some famous people, and they're sort of like, stargazing and fantasizing, and there's this famous guy named Slater, who you know Frida's all dreamy eyed about, and one thing leads to another, and somehow they get invited. Slater invites them to go to his private island, and they jump on the chance without a second thought. And this is where the thriller part begins, because halfway through the movie, we realize that it's not that glamorous and nice as they think it was, or that we hoped it would be for them. This is not Stella got her groove back. No, this is I almost want to classify it as horror. I mean, when I got to the theater and I told the one of the ushers that I was going to go see Blink Twice, he said, "Well, I should warn you." And I was like, "Warn me about what?" He was like, "There's sexual violence." And I was like, "Oh, I did not know that." Okay. So I was kind of like feeling weird after that warning when I went into the theater to watch it. But um, yes, there is some violence, and I guess he was right. You could call it some, but I mean, honestly, I've seen a lot of really horrible stuff in theater, in film. So it was mild, and I still think that the R rating is appropriate. I've seen worse than this film as far as those topics are concerned. Um, I don't even want to mention the other films that I've seen, but just sticking to this film, it's an R-rated movie. Um, I do want to classify it more as horror, though. I just don't think it classifies as a thriller. Maybe it could have been, but I think it's more of horror than thriller, in my opinion. Um, I do like the message that the Zoe Kravitz and the writer that she worked with on this. I do like the message that they're conveying with this film, and with this, which is why I give it 4 out of 5 stars, because I recommend it, because it's a really strong reminder to anyone, really, man, woman, young, old, that our fantasies can sometimes get us in big trouble when we throw away our safety nets and our logic. We really have to be careful with the fantasies that we want to jump into. And I think that's a really good and strong message. And I think that Zoe Kravitz conveyed it well, although I do think that this is more horror genre than thriller. Just my opinion on that classification. Um, Anyway, so Frida and Jess jump on this chance to go to the island. They go to the island and they think it's all going to be, la la la, hanging out with these celebrities, and it's going to be glamorous. And in the beginning, it seems like it is. I mean, they've got, they didn't even bring a suitcase. They're just provided clothes. They're swimming in the pool. They're doing all these kinds of drugs, and they're having a big old party, and they're eating, gourmet food that's just served on this glamorous table, and it's all just like, like these parties that you see, when you're watching TV and they show all the lifestyles of the rich and famous kind of things. And so at first, Jess and the main character Frida, they're having a great time and they're really happy they're there. Until uh, Jess, her friend Jess, starts feeling something. There's these snakes on the island. They've got this venom, and Jess gets bit by a snake. And they say, "Oh, you're not going to die or nothing. It's not poisonous, deadly poisonous or anything." But after she gets bit by the snake, uh, Jess starts questioning everything because they did not take her to the hospital. They weren't even concerned about any kind of medical treatment except just like get over it. And so then Jess starts talking to her friend Frida like, "Hey, something's not right here. I'm feeling this. Don't you feel it? Like we need to get out of here." And Frida doesn't really want to hear it because she's still having a good time, and she's just trying to tell her friend like, "I've waited for this kind of an opportunity my whole life, and now you want to ruin it. Can't you just let me enjoy this?" And then no sooner after that conversation, like, Jess disappears. Just poof, she's gone. And Frida is partying with the other girls so much, and they're doing so many drugs and stuff that she almost doesn't even realize that her friend's gone. And then all of a sudden, she sort of like, there was a reminder, her friend's lighter, which has her name on it, Jess, and everything. And she, "Oh my God, where's my friend?" And she starts like, waking up. And she goes, "Where's Jess? Where's Jess?" And the other girls are so spaced out on drugs, they don't even know. They're like, "Who's that?" Yeah. So then Frida starts realizing that Jess was right, and that, you know, there was a big problem. And um she feels alone and she's scared, and she's just sort of trying to act like there's no big deal about it because she feels in a dangerous situation. So she's just trying to keep, like, the show going, like, "Oh, everything's fine, blah blah blah." um until she finally finds an ally, which she finds in the character of uh, what's her name? Uh, Sarah, played by Adria Arjona, another actress I've never heard of, but she finds an ally in Sarah because her and Sarah start talking privately, and Sarah also agrees that something's wrong. So they start waking up together, and they work together to figure out how to get out of this dangerous situation. And they're very clever about how they do it. I had to say that was very clever on those two girls' parts, how they figured out a way out. But once they do team up as allies and start to figure out how to get out of it, then the other girls also start like sort of waking up because, well, they also got a hold of the snake venom. They got a hold of the snake venom, which was a weird potion that actually brought memories back. And they had all these repressed memories from all the time that they had spent on the island about a lot of violent things that had happened that they couldn't even remember because of all the drugs that they were doing. So the venom was like a memory snapper. It like snapped back your memories. Um, yeah, okay. So anyway, wrap that all up. The girls get out of it. That was the ending. They do get out of it. And the only plot hole on that, it's good because you're like, phew, you're like, okay, they got out of it, but you still don't know what happened to Jess. That's kind of a plot hole. Also, the major plot hole, even kind of worse than not knowing what happened to Jess, is that they get off this island. That part I was kind of questioning at the end, like, how'd they get off the island? How do they get off the island? Like, because they were brought to the island by these celebrities. So how are they going to get off the island if they've taken control? I mean, yeah, that part was a little bit of a plot hole to me. But okay, so that's pretty much the gist of the story. I do think there's a strong message, and I'm glad that Zoe and the writer she worked with brought this message to the forefront because, like I said, this is an important message for especially for young girls, but is relevant to men, young men, and anyone really who. Someone like me, I'm older and I have experience, but I still need the reminder like this to say that sometimes a fantasy or hero worship or star worship can go too far, and you can make unwise decisions just because you're in la la land because you're fantasizing too much. And that's a good reminder. So I applaud Zoe Kravitz and the writer for uh, bringing that topic out. Okay, now back to the celebrities that were in this film. I give 5 stars to Naomi Ackie for a great performance as Frida. Really great performance. Channing Tatum played Slater, and this is a totally different Channing Tatum. It's definitely different from other stuff that I've seen him in. Um, I think he did a really good job. I mean, he was charming, which is like why the girls were all la la about him. But he was also sort of spooky. He was a little spooky. Others were included in the star cast were Christian Slater as Vic and Kyle MacLachlan as Rich. It was nice to see other stars. Speaking of celebrities, in the mix, and they were neat because, to tell you the truth, like I've seen them in other movies, and they were sort of almost acting like themselves, which is like kind of weird. Then there were other people I didn't know, like Simon Rex as Cody, Haley Osment as Tom, and uh, yeah, I didn't know those actors, but they did fine in their supporting roles. Um, there was a big name. Gina Davis was in it. She was probably the oldest actress, except for the really old lady who I don't know her name. There was a really old lady in it, but I don't know who that actress was. But then the oldest of the names that I knew was Gina Davis as Stacy. And I'm still trying to kind of think. This is her role and her character inside of the story is a mystery to me. So I've been trying to figure it out since for since I saw the movie yesterday. I've been trying to figure out, well, why did they put Gina Davis? They call, I guess her name's Stacy. They call her Stacy. Why is Stacy in this movie, and what is that about? Um, I don't know. It's the weirdest mystery of the movie to me. Is Stacy is the weirdest mystery. She's sort of like, she's not as old as the old lady. Like the old lady that shows up in the movie is like really old, like wrinkled and gray and kind of hunched over and like a spooky old witch, right? She's not that old. She's kind of like me. Like, you can see old lines on her neck, and you can see a little bit of, she's sort of like not old, but not young like like the main characters. And I'm like going, okay, mentally, I relate to Jess. Physically, I relate to this Stacy, who I don't even know why she's in the movie. And it's just weird. It's like, well, I mean, if I had a question to ask of Zoe or the writer, like, what is Stacy doing in this movie? What is the purpose of that character in this movie? I don't get that. It's a mystery. Okay, so anyway, besides that, I do give it 4 out of 5 stars, and I recommend it. And I think for a debut film, it is a really good first film for Zoe Kravitz. And I think, like I said again, I think all the performances were really great. There's only that one plot hole, well, one and a half plot holes. For the most part, there's no plot holes, and it's a good message. Um, as far as the violence goes, it's not any worse than anything you've seen. I mean, I think you've seen worse than what they displayed. It's not pleasant. I'm not saying it's pleasant, but we've seen more violence than this film, that's for sure. All right, and that's it.